Welcome to Extension Connection on Super Talk 1270. Thoughtful information and discussion with experts from both Burleigh and Morton County Extension Service offices. Extension Connection provides advice on family nutrition, issues in agriculture, lawn and garden, community leadership, homeowner concerns, and so much more. Live from the Super Talk 1270 studio, this is Extension Connection.
All right, good morning. This is Amelia Dull, 4-H Youth Development Agent over from Burleigh County, and I'm joined today by Ashley Stegman, our Ag and Natural Resource Agent. And today we're going to be talking about a variety of topics. I think we're talking about some last-minute Christmas gifts you can get for gardeners, some tips to take care of those house plants, because we all know that our outside plants are pretty much dormant.
They're not living anymore.
Right. They're gone for the year. And then helping yourself and your child deal with some winter blues.
Okay.
So, Ashley, I'm a gardener.
All right.
Hopefully my husband's listening. What are some good presents?
Well, there are some typical presents that get given every single year. I remember growing up, my grandparents, we would always give my grandma a flower for Christmas, and that was an amaryllis, and that makes a great holiday gift. It is very showy and one of the easiest plants to grow. So if you are not so much of a green thumb, this is a great flower plant to start. Many stores offer the amaryllis bulbs, and they don't really take very much to get started to grow.
And those are the ones that aren't really in dirt, right? Like you can see them.
We call it soil, but
Sorry,
yes.
soil.
Yes. Those are the ones. I have even seen, if you really want to get decorative, a nice, I guess, arrangement that I have been seeing. Don't know for sure how well the actual flower will continue to be productive and stay pretty. There are some people that will put those pretty beads in the bottom of say a glass container, and then just put that bulb in the water. It will probably bloom. I'm thinking that if you would keep it in soil, it would have a better chance to bloom longer.
So it's going to stay longer if it's in soil.
Yep, it will stay longer. It will be more productive, and it will just look prettier, and it will last through the holiday season. I don't think many people want to see their flower die at,
Right, nobody wants a dying centerpiece.
No. Usually we don't go for that. A quality bulb, when you're looking for that bulb that you want to give, sometimes you can see the bulb through the container when you buy it from a store. You really want to look for a bulb that is extra large. That will grow not one, but more than likely 2 flower stalks.
So are we talking like softball size or larger?
Most of the bulbs don't actually get to softball size.
Okay, so like baseball size?
That would be a little large. I'm thinking probably
tennis ball.
There you go.
All
That's
right.
a good
I'll just
good
keep throwing out
reference.
sports.
Yes, a tennis ball size bulb is more than good. Sufficient. Thank you. Size, and will grow very nice. More than likely, you will see a couple blooms on it.
Now, is an amaryllis an annual or a perennial?
An amaryllis is going to bloom annually. Okay. So you will have it once a year. Now, these bulbs that you see, you can go to Walmart, Kmart, Lowe's. You see these all over. Mm-hmm. They do make great gifts, but that's kind of what they are. They're gifts. They're gift for a year. You enjoy it for a year. It might not be so productive the next year. So just knowing that you're going to get a very beautiful flower the first year, and then maybe next year you need a little extra tender loving care for it.
So it's going to last longer than, say, a dozen roses, but it's not going to be my centerpiece for the next 15 years.
No, it will not be your centerpiece for the next 15 years. I'm sorry.
Dang it.
And hopefully your husband's listening. Amelia needs a centerpiece more often than 15 years.
Right. So now with the amaryllis, can you plant it in your yard in the springtime when the ground thaws?
I I would say you'd want to just keep this in a pot, just because, you know, amaryllis is you're growing it from the bulb, and it does require a little extra love and care type thing, what all bulbs do. And so if you're going to plant it outside, you need to get it out early so it can grow in its environment and get acclimated to it. I worry that it might be too much of a shock for this type of flower to be planted outside.
Right. Well, it's kind of a shock from anyone to go from being inside at 70 degrees to outside at 40 degrees. Yeah.
I would say, you know, if this is something you want to try to do, go for it. I encourage you to kind of think out of the box, but just know you're going to more than likely have a little struggle with this growing outside.
Sounds good.
And another, I guess, centerpiece that we see often, maybe not right on the table, but, you know, out for decoration, are Norfolk Island pines. Now, have you ever seen
a small Christmas tree?
It is a small Christmas tree, yes. It's another really fun plant to give, very festive. You can decorate it with a small, you know, garland or beads or lights. I have even seen itty bitty baby lights on them. So, you know, it's really just a fun, festive plant. One thing to know about this, just like you were asking whether you could plant it outdoors or not, this is not one that will do well here. If you plant it outdoors, it will die. It is regularly from the South Pacific area.
It's not a place that I usually think of pines coming from.
You know, it's not, but these pines, they can grow up to 200 feet tall.
Oh my gosh.
So they can be very large, but not in North Dakota.
So
these miniature Christmas trees, they thrive indoors. They do really well, but they are not hardy outdoors. Remember that. We're not going to put our small little Christmas trees outside. They're not going to grow. Enjoy them indoors and use them for decorations.
And are those, again, readily available in Bismarck, Mandan?
You know, I was just at Lowe's this past weekend, and I did see Lowe's has some nice little I guess they might not be Norfolk Island, but nice little pine trees that are those fun little Christmas trees that you can decorate with.
All right. So what else? What other kind of holiday plants do we see?
So for holiday plants, of course, there is a holiday cactus. A lot of people have those holiday cactuses. Now, those cactuses, the blooms drop easily. So you can either get a Christmas cactus or they even have Easter cactuses. So the difference is they're blooming during that time of the season.
Right.
You know, I saw our grandmother had 2 holiday cactuses, and the blooms were already full bloom. So that one was a little earlier than Christmas.
Right.
And those blooms were dropping easily, so they're kind of fragile, is what I'm trying to say.
They're temperamental. They're teenagers.
Yeah, a little bit. So you have to be very careful. You want to keep these out of any type of drafts. You don't want to have them by a window, a door, or a register. They just do not do well with drafts. They are native to a rainforest, so hot, humid weather is what they really like. You also want to allow that soil to dry between your waterings. You don't want to oversaturate it, because that's how the cactuses, it actually swells within the leaf. That water swells within the leaf and reduces the bloom. And so you really want them to bloom fully, so you want to be careful not to overwater.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, some more information about the holiday season. All right, welcome back to the Extension Connection with Burleigh County. This is a pre-recorded show, but we are talking before the break about some holiday gifts that you can give to gardeners or people who think they have a green thumb or actually have a green thumb.
Or maybe you just, like flowers and
yes.
decorate,
So, again, this is Amelia Dahl, 4-H Youth Development Agent, and Ashley Stegman, our Ag and Natural Resources Agent. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about Christmas cactuses and making sure you don't overwater them because that will reduce the bloom production. What are some other things that can either help or hinder the blooms on our Christmas cactuses?
Well, like I said, watering can really affect that bloom of your cactus. So allow that soil to dry slightly between your waterings, just like most of your houseplants. Being indoors, the humidity is a little different. You don't want to overwater these plants. Overwatering really reduces the longevity of your plant and the production of your plant. You can just kind of think of, would you like to stand in a bucket of water all day? Right.
Think of how your fingers and your feet swell when you are exposed to too much water. Same premise with plants, I'm assuming.
Yep, exactly.
So one of the other things we talked about with Christmas plants or the Christmas cactus is they don't do well to temperature change. They're a very moderate temperature plant. So what are some tips that you can give people who are maybe purchasing this as a hostess gift to give to somebody? What are some things we need to be mindful of when we're purchasing these, because we do live in North Dakota? And even though the weather has been really nice, 50 degrees is still cold for these plants.
For some of these plants, yes, it is still a little chilly. Whether you are purchasing a cactus, a poinsettia, or another flower bouquet of some sort, you just want to make sure that when you purchase it, you wrap it in a plastic bag or some type of covering to really, blanket it from the shock that it could have by going outdoors.
Because the Christmas cactus, when it gets cold, its first reaction is to drop its flowers, right?
Yep.
And nobody wants to be that person who's taking a hostess gift that looked beautiful 2 days ago when you bought it, and then when you get it to the person who's hosting, all of the flowers have fallen off and it looks like you can't take care of plants.
Yes, yeah. And the other thing, if you buy plants to give as either a hostess gift or just a Christmas gift, make sure that you kind of wait a little while. Because if you don't have that green thumb, and like Amelia said, you don't want to be that person to bring a dying plant to the individual, maybe just push it off a little bit. Wait until maybe a day or two before you purchase it.
On your way to dinner, go pick it up.
There you go. That way it looks as good as you want it to. If you buy it and then your event's not for, say, 5 days, then you have to take care of that for 5 days.
Right. And do you really trust yourself to do that?
And that's kind of the thing, if you are an avid gardener and you know how to, and you work really well with your plants and you have, you're very mindful of them, then go ahead. But I do just want to remind you, when you're bringing plants into the house, make sure that you're not putting them next to a door, a window, even a register, a heat register. A heat register, thank you. Because there's extra drafts in those areas. And with extra drafts, that can cause, those plants, they're kind of,
they're finicky.
They're very finicky, yes, thank you.
They're kind of like a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of how you could equivalent it. So they're very finicky. You want to be mindful of where you're placing them and how much watering you're giving them. Just because you bought it from, say, the greenhouse, you brought it home and you think, oh, it'll be good for a couple days because, of course, the greenhouse fed it before I bought it. Not always true. Make sure you check it. You want to, when you're looking to purchase a plant, you want to make sure that the the container that it is in good condition. You don't want any cracks in that container. If there are cracks, then you're going to have water issues, and nobody wants to hand over or give a leaky container with a flower in.
Now, what about size of container? Does that impact the productivity of the flower?
With all types of plants, not just our holiday plants, but it does depend if you have a flower growing and you start to see maybe some leaf droppage or some browning. Those are signs that the roots are kind of there's not enough room for those roots to develop. And so you want to make sure, and this is probably getting more into your house plants, thinking on that line, that you give your plants equivalent size to expand, to grow. When you start to see some of those plants, like I said, leaf droppage or some browning, it might be time for a new plant. I know I try to, every spring is when I do a lot of my repotting of my indoor plants. Because at that time, we're kind of out of the coldness.
Right.
And you maybe in your home, your heating system has maybe kind of equaled out a little bit. You don't have a lot of hot heat going on in the home anymore to compensate for the winter. And it's just regularly in the spring, things start to be productive and grow again. And so it's good to kind of give them an extra little boost in the spring.
Make an addition to their house,
yes,
so to speak.
Yes, because, if you would transplant in the fall or the winter, again, as much as they're indoors in a controlled climate, they still are affected by outdoors, whether, there could be some drafts or really the sun production is one thing that really can harm your plant. If there isn't enough sunlight, which typically in the wintertime, we don't have as much
especially up here,
pure sun, natural sun that comes in. So you want to kind of think about that when you're transplanting also.
All right, so Christmas cactus and amaryllis, there's another really popular Christmas or holiday plant that we see a lot, the poinsettia.
The poinsettia, yes.
So what can you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you that they're gorgeous, and you can get them in about any color nowadays.
Yeah, I'm always surprised every year the new colors.
And if you can't find the color you want, you can probably find one that's white with glitter on it. That is probably the color you
glitter want. On the plant?
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yes. I don't, I guess, have a lot of, at this time, I don't know if I have quite an opinion on that. I feel that the plant should speak for itself. It's probably gorgeous enough without adding glitter on, but hey,
if that's your cup of tea.
Season, I mean, why not get festive?
Everything has glitter on it, I think, this time of year.
I think so. So poinsettias, you need to give them bright light. That's why so often we see poinsettias as a centerpiece. I think about in my home, I don't have a poinsettia yet because my kitchen table is not in use right now.
You have no kitchen.
But most of the times I do buy a poinsettia and I put it on the center of my kitchen table. Right above it is our direct chandelier light, if you will. And so you want to keep those in a bright light. Otherwise, they lose their luster. So they don't look as pretty.
They don't sparkle.
They don't sparkle.
And then you have to add your own glitter.
Yes, exactly. So room temps, just to keep them even, keep away from cool drafts and windows, and warm drafts of vents. So putting it by the heat register isn't really going to help our poinsettias.
Right.
Some plants, it's okay. Again, avoid overwatering and don't let the plant sit in water. And that's with all house plants and holiday plants. You just don't want to let them sit in water.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll finish talking about Christmas and holiday plants. right, welcome back to the Extension Connection with Burleigh County. Today we have myself, Amelia, and Ashley, our Ag and Natural Resource Agent. This is a pre-recorded show where we're talking about holiday gifts for gardeners. In the last few segments, we've been talking about taking care of those holiday plants, but maybe you don't want to give a plant and you're looking for something that lasts a little longer. What are some other gifts that are good for gardeners?
Well, I know for myself, I don't know why, but maybe this is because I am an avid gardener, or I attempt to be an avid gardener. My gloves always get ruined every single year.
I lose my gloves constantly.
Well, I don't, but I seem to buy my thinking process here is I buy 3 gloves. They're not high quality gloves, but I will buy 3 gloves, and honestly, almost every month I wear out a glove. So I buy one for June, July, and August.
Pretty good mentality.
You know, that's just how I work. And so I think any gardener would be really happy with a nice pair of gloves. So whether it's a leather type glove, gloves help you out in the garden with pruning, a good shears. That's another thing that come in that can be really nice to get for Christmas.
So can you get those kind of things this time of year? Or are we in town, or are we looking online for that?
Those are the gloves you can find in town. The pruning shears you still actually can find. Ace Hardware would be someplace you could look. Lowe's, Menards. And the other thing that is really fun for gardener is if you just don't know what to get them, a gift card to a local nursery, such as Cashman's or Plant Perfect, it is a wonderful gift also. The other things, maybe a good book, a good gardening book, a how-to, is always nice. There are a lot of horticulture gardening magazines out there, a subscription.
Oh, that would be fun.
That would be very, very fun. One thing I will say, though, to just...
As a caution,
a lot of those garden statues and gnomes that are very, very cute and very kind of novelty for your garden, you might want to just stay away from them this time of the year. 1, they might be a little hard to find. And 2, if you love gnomes, go for it. But some people just, it kind of comes every year. You kind of, just like you like to redecorate your home every year, your garden kind of becomes an outdoor space that you live in. And maybe you don't want the same statues. So you want to change them out or something. So just a little caution there.
So know the person you're giving a gift to before you pick out the perfect gnome.
Yes, exactly. The other really cool thing, and Amelia and I were actually discussing this during break, and I haven't seen them locally, so this is something you'd probably have to look online. There are solar illuminated LED pots, a container plant, a container so that you could put your flowers or your plants inside of it. So the idea is during the day it soaks up all the sun, and then at night it actually illuminates.
I think this sounds awesome.
I think it does too. I think I need to invest in one of these.
Especially for an outdoor, like if you have an outdoor patio or outdoor space where you're hanging out with friends or spending time outside, I think it would just look really cool in your yard.
Well, I think it would be really cool. And the other thing I'm wondering is if it aids in, overall productivity of the plant.
Well, I think next summer you need to do a little experiment and report back to us.
I think I do. I think I do.
In the name of science, Ashley.
Yes, in the name of science. I'll tell my husband that. Honey, you have to buy these for me. And then another thing, which... for some of those individuals that like to do a lot of juicing, taking their produce from their garden and juicing it, a nice juicing machine is always helpful. And then, after we all, as bad as it is, we all overindulge sometimes during the holiday season.
Yes.
We eat maybe 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 little goodies that we
only
probably
3,
shouldn't have. But, the time of the season.
Right.
'Tis the season. So, maybe a juicing machine will help then when January comes around and everybody gets on their kind of health kick.
Yeah, there was actually on the news this morning, they were talking about how a lot of people buy exercise DVDs, and only a third of people who buy them actually use them.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was like 20 million are purchased during the holiday season.
Wow.
And only a third of them are actually used.
Well, if you would go, to any of the local gyms, it seems like right away, January 1, they have, everybody goes out and buys a membership. Which, just to let you know, if you look at it earlier in the fall before, say, December, you're probably going to be able to get a gym membership a little bit
like Black
cheaper.
Friday.
Yes. Actually, there are some gyms that do offer, at this past year, that did offer a reduced rate for Black Friday. What a good way to get that membership, and maybe it's to give to someone or share with someone. That's another great gift idea. But there's so many fun things that you can give for a gardener. The other thing is, when we're talking about these holiday plants and everything, there's one really, I guess,
Big,
yes, plant or tree. I'll just say a tree because
you were trying not to give it away. You were really trying
not to give it away, but did you know 4 out of 5 homes in America will put a Christmas tree up? So, Amelia, is your Christmas tree up?
It is. My son would not allow us to go after Thanksgiving without the Christmas tree up.
See, and I am usually the exact same way, but since my house is being remodeled right now, we don't have our Christmas tree up, and I feel a little lost. I really do.
I just don't feel like it's Christmas without a Christmas tree.
And all of our neighbors have their Christmas lights up outside, and we don't. And I feel like the odd kid on the block.
We don't have our lights up either, but hardly anybody on our street does because we live in a very old neighborhood, so they don't put lights up.
See, we do have lights up, and my son does ask why they're not up.
Oh, I hear it on a daily basis, as does my husband. Mom, Brina has her Christmas lights up. Why don't we have ours up? So.
Oh, yes. So with those Christmas lights comes the Christmas tree. You have to have a tree in order to put some lights up. How many... So there's always the decision whether you have an artificial tree or a real tree. Now, Amelia, what do you think the percentage of natural trees are put up every year? I
would say 38%.
38%. So you're a little optimistic, but good job.
Oh.
It's actually about 20% of households in America use a natural tree. So when you are going and looking for this tree to put up, which there are quite a few tree lots that I've been seeing that pop up, to find a fresh tree in the tree lot, remember to look or grasp the branch near the trunk of the tree. Run your hand back towards the tip of the branch. Shake the tree or tap the trunk at the ground level and avoid the trees that drop needles. So really what you're doing, as
checking
bad
to
as
see
it
if
is,
it's dry.
You're shaking that tree to see if there's a lot of needle drop. If there is a lot of needle drop, then it means that it's really dry, like you said.
Right.
And so once you pick out your tree, again, remember to securely cover it when you transport it. Wrap the tree securely in a tarp to prevent the needles from drying in the wind. Once you get home, it is suggested to recut that trunk an inch or more.
Just like when you get flowers.
Yes, just like when you get flowers. So you have to do it to your tree also. And you want to put that tree in water immediately. You don't want to let it set. I know personally, my dad would always cut it off and then it would sit by the porch door for probably a day or two until my mom got ready to decorate. So that's probably why it didn't do so well. Set the tree in a cool place away from heating vents. Again, talking about heating, our plants indoors can be very can be harmful when it comes to those heatings.
All right, we're gonna take a break. Don't mean to cut you off, but we'll come back and we'll talk a little more about Christmas trees. right, welcome back to the pre-recorded Extension Connection with Burleigh County. This is Amelia Dahl and Ashley Stegman over from Burleigh County. And before the break, and I kind of cut Ashley off because we needed to go to break, we were talking about real Christmas trees.
Yes.
And then during the break, we were comparing stories about how we used to go get Christmas trees. And growing up, I grew up in Montana, so Christmas tree pines were readily available, unlike North Dakota. But we would always make a day of it, and we would go up into the mountains with our hot cocoa and our sleds and find the perfect Christmas tree. And I just remember so many trips up into the mountains with my parents trying to find those Christmas trees. And Jim and Ashley said, well, we went to the local parking lot and picked one up.
Oh, yeah.
But regardless of where you get your tree from, it's still important to make sure that it is a good quality tree. If you're buying it already pre-cut, that means shaking it to make sure a bunch of needles don't fall off, taking care of it on the transport home, cutting it off on the bottom, and getting it right into water. What other things do we need to be mindful of when we have a real Christmas tree?
Well, you just daily want to remember to check the water level with any type of plant. You want to make sure that you check the water level in the tree stand every day, and you do not need to add any type of preservative in the water. Some people, with some pre-packaged type trees, you will get little granulars in a little bag with the tree, and they say that helps with keeping it fresh and keeping its vibrance. You know, the same way if you get flowers, you also get that little packet. It's really the same thing. And the truth with the tree is so much larger than your flowers, than your bouquet. So the amount of granular that you're getting with that tree is not enough to really help or aid it. So just know if you are suggested to give it something, it's not going to really do that much for you.
And I've seen something floating around on social media lately that says if you do have a cut tree, a real tree, that you should be watering it with hot water. Now can we do a little snoops on this and debunk that?
Okay, yes. I would say you do not want to use the hot water because what happens is you almost shock that tree. Hot water is not something that it naturally is used to. Ever. So by dunking it or giving it hot water, just think about your bouquet flowers. If you would give those flowers hot water, what do you think would happen to that?
You're going to scorch the bottoms.
You'll scorch the bottoms. You'll start to see droopiness. So the same thing is it's the same idea with a cut tree. I would suggest that you just do a lukewarm water, room temperature. It doesn't have to be cold, but not hot, because what happens is if you scorch it, the way a tree takes up its nutrients by taking up that hot water can actually reduce the uptake of that water nutrients, and so you really don't want to shrink its uptake of nutrients.
So similar to if you were to drink a really hot cup of hot cocoa or coffee, your throat's going to be injured. The same thing applies to the tree, and it's going to take that tree a lot longer to recover from that, and it may never recover.
And just to remind you, these Christmas trees that you are getting, their expected life is to get through the holiday season.
Right.
So at the most, you're looking at 4 to 5 weeks, maybe 6 weeks if you can push it.
And that depends how long before you got it that it's been cut.
Exactly. Because once you are disturbing that tree, taking it from its natural environment, you've severed its roots. Its roots is really how it grows. And so by severing its roots, it only can really the uptake that it takes from that water is very minimal, and so it's really living on reserves that it's built up, but it's not meant to last for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. So just remember, picking out a tree can be a lot of fun, but remember, you want to shake the tree a little bit. We don't want a Charlie Brown tree. So just make sure that, those needles stay on the tree, that you don't have a lot of needle drop. And one thing we did kind of talk about with real trees, at least when I was growing up, we had a cat indoors. And sometimes any type of pet, any creature, they like to climb up the trees. They like to see what's going on. And especially some of those really fun ornaments that we put up, they don't look much different than their toys.
Exactly.
And so they don't understand that maybe great-grandma's precious angel heirloom type ornament isn't a toy. So just a reminder, if you have any types of those, you might want to put those farther up on the tree. And the other thing is, and I'm just thinking of this now, make sure that you're regularly picking up the needles from the ground, from the floor, the needle drop. I remember as a kid, it was my job to pick up all the needles.
That does not sound like a fun job.
It does not sound like a fun job. So when my mom decided to buy an artificial tree, I was perfectly okay with that.
Right.
Because, yes, I had to pick up all the needles because she was worried that our cat would ingest them.
Yeah, cats love to chew on stuff, especially if it smells like the outside.
Yes, and so maybe cats aren't that
intelligent.
Maybe our cat was just kind of doo-doo-doo and like to eat needles. But it can be. I just don't want to see anything happen to your pet. So make sure you're cleaning up your needles.
Yes, and nobody likes to step on a dried tree needle.
They hurt.
They hurt bad.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we have a cat, and because of our cat, none of our breakable ornaments are on the tree this year.
Okay.
Because our cat likes to sit at the very top of the tree, and he is a very large cat.
Oh, yeah.
So
similar thinking when it comes to young babies, toddlers.
Yes.
I remember with my kids, now that they are a little older, I'm okay with putting some of those fragile type things on the bottom because they know better. But when you have a young one that's just crawling around and whatnot, make sure you're putting those ornaments up towards the top because they do like to pull on things. Again,
they look like toys.
Looks like toys. So
exactly. Yep. My son decorated the tree this year.
Oh, very cool.
So it's very lopsided.
Oh, yeah.
Because a 4-year-old can only reach so high.
Oh, yes. Yep.
But it's fun to see how excited he was to decorate the tree. So involve your kids in the holidays.
Oh, yes.
And even if it's picking up the dried needles off the floor.
My mom may have had an interesting way of involving me in the process. But, I wouldn't have been able to say, you want to make sure that you pick up those needles so your pets don't ingest them. I'm assuming that they wouldn't have any real significant effect on them, but still.
Who wants to swallow a sharp?
Yeah. And even if it's dried up, I just don't think,
You don't need your cats digesting.
It would be like ingesting one of those car fresheners that's like the pine.
Yeah, that wouldn't taste very good.
No.
So. All right. Well, any last-minute tips for holiday plants?
Like I said, for our plants, just keep them out of drafts. And with most of them, just like our house plants, don't overwater. That's probably the biggest culprit of I guess killing our house plants is overwatering. You're worried that they're not going to survive. It's really cold outside. They need a little extra oomph. No, they're okay. They actually are pretty plushy. If you look at your landscape plants, they're the ones that are kind of sad right now.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing the information about our holiday plants. Before we go, you kind of have a big program starting in January targeted toward our farmers. Do you want to talk very briefly about that?
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. We do have a Design Your Succession Plan. This is a statewide program. This is kind of aimed towards our ranchers, producers, farmers, and it is really talking about empowering families to get started on their succession plan. So when I say succession plan, talking about passing your operation down maybe to the next successor or the next generation. And this is, this is a very delicate conversation, and we're here just to kind of open the communication lines and try to get some conversation going. So here locally, we will be having a program. It's a 3-night program. It'll be held in Bismarck. This is a collaboration between Burleigh County and Morton County Extension agents. The date is January 14th, 19th, and 21st. It starts at 6 o'clock. We will have a dinner prior at 5:30. If you are interested in this, please just give us a call. At the office, our number is 221-6865, and I hope to hear from you, and we look forward to having a great program.
All right, well, have a wonderful week, guys, and we will talk to you right before Christmas.